Joe on Joe is the only podcast where Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back with another exciting edition of Draw with Joe. That's right. This is the podcast that we talk about G.I. Joe in sequential order. I've covered the Sunbow cartoons, the DIC cartoons. We've covered the Extreme cartoons, and we've done a lot. We've covered all the issues of Real American Hero, the original Marvel series by Larry Hama. We've covered a lot of the Action Force annuals, etc., so on and so forth. So we're making our way through, and this era, this month, we'll say, we've been working on the official How to Draw G.I. Joe book. So I figured, let's go video with this thing, even though I know this ain't normally a video podcast. So I get it. Some of the videos, some of the hints may not be optimized as some drawing podcasts, whatever videos are. But you know what? I'm enjoying this. I hope you guys are too. If this is your first time joining us, please feel free to look back in the catalog for all our old episodes. This is a legacy show. This is a show that's about kind of the history of G.I. Joe. So everything's evergreen. So go back and listen to old episodes, watch along with the old episodes, read along with the old cartoons at your pace. Welcome aboard. If you want to say hi, reach out to me on social media at Joe on Joe Pod. It's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can say hello at joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know, A, if you like the show. If you don't like the show, keep it to yourself. And B, if you want to be a guest on the show, please, please reach out. We do a segment here called You on Joe, where we feature you, the listener, you, the G.I. Joe fan, and we talk about like your specific one favorite thing. I love doing those. We're working on a couple. I'm putting a few in the can for that. So we'll eventually release at some point in the near future. So I love doing that segment. It's really great. So please reach out and let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. So now you're seeing this. You're seeing a lot of things happening on here. But before we get to all this stuff, we're going to talk about Periwinkle Puss. We're going to talk about the After Action Report. We're going to talk about this pencil. We're first going to talk about our awesome sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been with us every week on week for 3 years, I think. They're fabulous. Give them a listen. They're an amazing movie podcast. I know you love movies. Everyone does. I know you love entertainment. That's why you're here. This week, this is a big week coming up. Furiosa drops this week. That is getting rave reviews. I've not seen it yet, but I cannot wait to see it. Me and Toilet and I, we saw If last week. It was good. It wasn't great. It was really a throwback. It felt very much like a throwback to kind of an 80s whimsical, like a never-ending story kind of a thing. Like that kind of a vibe. But it was charming. It was charming as get out, and we certainly enjoyed ourselves. So there's a lot of great movies. This is what I'm saying. A lot of good movies really dropping. I need to see that the new Strangers, the prequel one, because that first Strangers movie is pretty good, and I remember enjoying the second one quite a bit. I saw it in theaters. I haven't seen it since. So if it's good like those, I'm in, man. So I want to see that. And everything's heating up. So give Movies in a Meal podcast a listen. Give them your support and listen to their opinions because they're sharp. Now you're seeing all this other stuff sitting on my drawing table. This is remnants from my trip last weekend. I was out at the Comic-Con Revolution that took place in Ontario, California. We were part of a podcast panel about So You Want to Create a Podcast that was put together by Jim Higgins, who is a fantastic comic book editor / instructor. Go to the Google Jim Higgins College of Comics. You'll find Jim's website. He's great. I took his classes out here in California. He teaches online. He helps people all over the world put together self-published comic books. He's really, really dynamite and a great guy. And he put together that podcast panel last weekend. And like that, for example, Periwinkle Puss, this is put together by our friend Christian Horn, who runs the Part-Time Fanboy podcast, which I've been a guest on and love it every time. Christian's taking classes with him. We also were on the panel with David Abalone, who is the part of the the Writers Room podcast. David's a awesome writer, really great writer. He writes the Elvira comic book these days, and he's great. He's got a pulp novel podcast as well. And then we were on the panel with Dan from the Amazing Spider podcast. If I'm probably it's not in front of me, but yeah, the Amazing Spider Talk, I think is what it's called. But it's a really popular Spider-Man podcast. Dan's great, and we were just talking about our adventures in podcasting. So it was a really fun panel. Check all those guys out. If you were out there, you had the chance to meet Lady J herself. Adrian Palicki was there. Got a snapshot with her. Hopefully, we can get her on the show. I did leave her a calling card with the contact information on there. Who knows? Hopefully, she passed it along to her manager, and we'll hear from them. If not, it was still great to meet her because I think she did a great job as Lady J. Also at the show was Josh Egabine from the After Action Report. It was so nice to meet him in person. We bonded and said hello and shared some information. And I would just want to take this opportunity to remind everybody to go check his stuff out. They do the great After Action Report. They the Kickstarter stuff. They just finished the G.I. Joe 21 retrospective Kickstarter. Really solid work. Really enjoyed it. It was great to meet him. So Josh, thanks so much. Great to see you. And hope to see more from you along that front. Now, we're here. Let's move away all this clutter because we're here for the one and the only Major Bludd this week, gang. He's up next in our drawing adventures. How to draw Major Bludd. It's funny. I like it. I kind of like that they do it. Is the Major Bludd they give us is like a fully haired Major Bludd. They could have cheated and done the helmet, which is certainly on the next page. There's a helmet version. But they're like, no, let's give you a full head of hair, Major Bludd, because that's a little more, it's a little harder, I think. I know I always love drawing people with helmets and things like that because that helmet does half the heavy lifting. So we're going to do some facial Major Bludd stuff today. And we're going to start, as always, with that oval. Try to do a little bigger, too. My proportions are always wonky, and that's okay if your proportions are wonky. Sometimes it's just the width. You know, it's funny. It's like I have a big hand, right? So like my oval would be this by. If you have a smaller hand and your oval's a little smaller, hey, it is what it is. You know, unless you're specifically producing for a certain, you know, like byproduct, you know, like you need it to be a certain size of a page, you're drawing. So it is what it is. So adding 2 lines below to indicate the neck. I don't see this a thing. Go over here. I don't really see the 2 lines to below. I guess those are the 2 lines. 2 lines below to indicate the neck. So that would be his shoulder. But then this is going to have to come down much further. Right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stay in the proportions that I can see on this, and this doesn't go much further than that. So we're actually coming around here a little more. Once again, actually, I should switch up. I forgot to mention, yeah. So here's that awesome Bears pencil from last week. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you... Oh, where did I put it? Oh, no. Where did it go? Well, after our conversation last week, seriously, where did it go? After our conversation last week, I got so inspired and so enamored and hyped up about my football pencil collection that I went on eBay and I bought me some football pencils. And now I can't find it. Well, I bought another Bears one. Where did it go? which I now have absolutely no idea where it went, and that's funny because like as pencils go, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't very expensive, but it wasn't cheap as pencils go. But now I can't find it. I started recording, and now it is gone with the wind. So we're going to use Spider-Man this week. That's what I'm saying. We're going to switch it up and use Spider-Man to see what kind of lead Spider-Man has in his pencil, so to speak. But yeah, so if you are interested in those football pencils, they're out there to be had. You can get them. Go on eBay. They're not cheap though. That's the thing. I was shocked. And what's funny is I thought I was buying a whole bunch of them. Turns out I bought one. It was way more than I wanted to spend on a old Bears pencil, but I love it. That's the rub. I love it. So that's about that. So today we're using a Spider-Man pencil. I'm sure it's a number 2. This is it's got to be 2007. It's got a little Spider-Man eraser on it. I'm sure this yeah, see, that's just going to leave red marks. So we're not going to use that eraser unless we want to erase with blood. So funny. So it says divide his head with vertical horizontal lines as you did Hawk's to locate the center line and eye line. At a straight line for the shoulders across a 0.1 of the center line below the chin. Oh, so I see what they're saying. So the shoulder is going to match with his center line below the chin. No, that's not true. That's not what they're saying at all. At a straight line for the shoulders across a 0.1 of the center line. See, it's so crazy. Like they have instructions. So this is a critique of the book again. They have instructions, but the instructions absolutely do not correspond with what we're seeing in the pictures. They just don't. Draw in his eyes, centering each about halfway between the center line and the side of the oval. The nose line falls about 2/3 of the way between the eye line and the chin. Well, it's funny about the centering thing because this is not a head-on. This is actually a kind of a side glance. So if you center his eyes, they're going to be weird because the way they have him drawn here is this eye, his left eye, well, it's patched, but his left eye is shorter to the side. And this one, if you go in the middle, his left is making his right eye further that way. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look here, you see more of the back of his head. So again, I'm calling into question these instructions, but we're going to do it. I'm going to use that as his eye line. I don't even know how to start here. Okay. So we're going to start with a furrowed brow. I'll tell you, hey, I'll tell you, drawing the Sky Striker last week with the level of I guess exactness, precision, that would be the right word. The precision involved in drawing like a machine like that, not my cup of tea. And not even from you're saying that because you're not good at it. It's just it just feels weird. It just felt weird and robotic. It's why it's, to be honest, it's one of the reasons why we're not doing that's why we're not doing the other profile of the Sky Striker this week, because I don't like it. Like it just feels. I've never liked drawing. I'm not a car guy. I don't know if there's. I'm sure there's. I know there's a ton of you out there who are car guys. I am not a car guy. I don't care about cars. It's like, it takes a lot for me even to care about G.I. Joe vehicles, let alone like cars. So he's got his. I'm gonna rough this in. This eye patch. So like, it's like I don't really care. Like, I'm kind of like, drawing. It's not as interesting to me to draw a vehicle versus a human, which shows. However, we live in the world of, we live on the edge of the world of the Transformers too. So, man, there's a lot of great Transformers artists out there who I admire. What they manage to do is that they manage to give life and still make the Transformers, the action of the Transformers look organic, but not, we'll say, broken organic, right? Not like, speaking of broken, he's got a great broken nose here. Like, not like, it's not like it's bending the laws of physics. I think some of the early, man, he's really got furrowed brow. That's great. Some of the early Transformers, either like comic books, either like looked a little too, like they were really, really stiff and not, not lifelike. Like there was no, not lifelike, it's not the right word, but there was no life to them. Or they look too cartoony and they didn't look robotic enough. If that's a nitpick that I can make. I guess that's not a critique. That's just more of a figuring out how to draw that stuff, because at the time we didn't have a lot of long, rich history of people drawing living robot vehicles. A lot of vehicles, sure, a lot of cars and stuff, but cars that were imbued with like humanity, I don't really think so. So I'm kind of jumping up here, I think, because over here it says rough in his hair, indicate the shape of the nose, mouth, sideburns, collar, added pupils and highlights to his eyes. Yeah, so I'm kind of just going with this. Instructions be darned. So yeah, so those early guys that were drawing like the early G.I. Joe comics were really groundbreaking in that. Like, even, you know, anime, like, right? Like, was I guess Voltron and all that stuff. Those are kind of the same. Those are kind of like living, but they're not really, though. That's the thing. Like, they're, even then, let's use Voltron as an example, just to carry this conversation out to its end. Using Voltron as the example, Voltron isn't its own dude. Voltron is dudes inside the dude, right? Like, he's not his own character. So therefore, he doesn't really have emotions, right? He doesn't really have, I might have screwed myself here. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't really have the yeah, it's too much. Voltron doesn't really have a character personality per se. You know what I mean? Neither did like G-Force when they joined together and became whatever that thing was called. It was the characters in the suits, whereas Transformers were the characters themselves. I guess the closest equivalent would be, and stop me if I'm wrong. By stop me, I mean email me with corrections, because you're not in the room with me right now. Disney, right? Disney animated things like, I know at this time Beauty and the Beast didn't exist, but what am I thinking of? The Wizard Mickey Fantasia, right? Where Mickey Mouse got Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse got all the brooms and stuff to move, and that's essentially giving life to objects like the Transformers. And so that kind of personality, that's really what you're doing every time you see a Transformer drawn or illustrated or animated. I mean, you're really seeing the result of a Disney-ish right? Kind of experimentation. Even like, let's go back to the Fleischer Superbands. And I got to tell you, I wasn't ready. Draw through the neck to find the cylinder shape of the shirt collar. Oh, that's funny. So they're saying, so to find the cylinder, to find how the shirt collar would wrap around, they're saying actually do this. But you see what I'm doing? I'm ignoring the I'm kind of just drawn. Like, and this is, I've talked about this before. This is my I'll say Achilles heel, weakness. Um it's whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, where I just see it and I kind of jump to the conclusion. I thought this when I was like really young and trying to learn how to draw and not realizing that I was drawing the inked version instead of the penciled version. So I would shortchange myself learning a lot how to do a lot of this, because I would just go to this and I would be like, let me just draw him instead of getting all the underlying stuff right. And I think I do genuinely think that that's both a hindrance to someone's growth, but it can also propel them. But they got to recognize that they're doing it. And I know I didn't recognize I was doing it for a long time. I just, as much as I'll say I knew or know or whatever about comics and drawing and stuff, behind the scenes stuff was all guesswork, a lot of guesswork. I didn't really get how to draw the Marvel way until I was a little later, a little older. And I don't think it really, I don't think it impacted me as much as it should have or could have. But that's all right. Life is long. Penn Jillette told this anecdote recently on his podcast, and he was telling it from someone else told it. So it's one of those stories. Someone at some arts college was saying, like, trying to find my own, their student saying, I'm trying to find my own style, but it's too similar to, we'll say Picasso or Rembrandt. I think it was Rembrandt. I don't know, whatever. You see where it's an anecdote. And what the teacher told him to do is he said, lock yourself in this room. I'll give you an original. We have at the school, we have an original Rembrandt. And I'm going to lock you in the room with that painting. And I want you to duplicate that painting as much as possible, and basically try to forge it. Do it. You draw that painting as close as possible, and the resulting difference between that painting and yours is that's going to be your style. In other words, don't get so hung up on thinking that you're a master. Focus on where you're different. That's what I take from that story. I think there's a few lessons to be taken from that story, but focus on what's different about you rather than what you're similar with, because we are all the products of our influences. And I say that as a as a whatever podcaster, as a someone who draws a little bit, someone who writes a little bit. You get influences. No one is in a vacuum. We all both learn from other places. Otherwise, every piece of art would be fresh and original. Of course, you learn from other places. You see what people do and you mimic them. But it's trying to find how that mimic is different, and what about that? What takes you past that mimic and into a realm of creation that is just your own. I have long, one thing I wanted to, I mentioned this for a couple weeks. I have long had a theory about creators, writers, and I mean this like writers, painters, artists, things like that, genuinely. That, not saying everyone fits exactly into one of these, but I do have my suspicions that I think a lot of people are fall into this category I'm about to get into. Is that you're there are really wonderful, really talented creators, comics, writers, etc. Not just comic books, but really talented people that do their best stuff with more. I don't want to say boundaries, but um, playpens. Whether it's using someone else's IP and you do good stuff within it, or drawing. We'll say drawing like real world models versus abstract kind of things. There are some that just thrive in it, and I think it's a function of how your brain works. And then there are some creatives that are just so, their brain is so operating on a level, whether it's for whatever reason, whether it's nature, nurture, hallucinogenic, chemical, who knows, but like their brains work on just such a level of spontaneous creativity that they produce just such crazy ideas. And sometimes those ideas aren't fully formed. Sometimes they need some refinement and everything. And not saying either one of those is better, but I really do feel it's rare to find a creator that kind of does both. That kind of has a foot in this just unbridled imagination world, like a Willy Wonka, versus someone who can just absolutely nail a war comic, right? And they just crush it, and whatever decisions they make are absolutely the right ones, and it just, nothing's ever looked realer than that issue of Sergeant Rock, right? I know some, like, for example, my friend and amazing creator Richard Fairgray, he's been on the show. He is dynamite, and he is just unbridled creativity, just absolutely unbridled creativity. He produces more comics than anyone I've ever known or met, period, ever. And I don't, zero hyperbole there. All that dude does is make comic books, and they're different. They all can be just wildly different. And he is just all creation. And I've talked to him about that. And he doesn't necessarily like working with other people's ideas or other IPs, things like that. Like he's a dude that just goes, I've got so much in my head I need to get out. Then there's other people, and I think I've seen this. I'm not going to name names, and no one personally that I'm thinking of, but like big comic book creators that we all know and love. Like I look at them and I go, man, they absolutely do their best work with established IPs, like with Superman or Captain America or Spider-Man or X-Men or fill in the blank, whatever that is. It's like, for some reason, there's just some reason that person, their brain works best on some other properties, and I've always found that very interesting. And I don't know why. I don't know what point I'm making. I'm drawing and trying to fill in some time, but I've always seen that distinction, and I don't know. Some people may disagree. Some people may be like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? I do my best work." Blah 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 blah. Okay, great, that's cool. But I don't know. I've been observing this stuff for a long time. I may not be making it myself, but I've been observing it for a while. Those are some of the conclusions I've come to. That's why we debate these things. So we're kind of almost done with Major Bludd here, everybody. That was a quick little, was it quick? Oh no. Yeah, we're pretty much coming up to our half hour. So he's not, let's see here. What's missing here? We got a little, so his jaw needs a little flesh there. I would put that a little bit there. His eye, so this little eye patch thing seemed to be weird, but I gotta be honest, it just seems big on the page. I'm gonna do that. I think that'll help. Eye patch seems really big on the comic page. I mean, we're gonna do that. I think that'll help a lot. Pop his ear out. Oh yeah, I meant to do this. I meant to erase a little bit there underneath. We'll go back in. Get that filled in. Now, if we were doing this with inks, all you would do is put X's like there on that black, and then your inker would fill that in. Oh, this will help too. Yeah, so now it doesn't look like his neck is so weird. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, his nose is a little off. A little awkward nose. It's funny though. Yeah, his nose is a little awkward. And then we're there. I think I'm missing some. Oh yeah, I'm missing a little. There's a line for these nasal passages. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Man, your fur, like a brow can do a lot. So here we go, Major Bludd, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We'll see you next week for more. Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah. See, it's funny. This is why you want to just draw the helmet, because then you have to deal with the hair. But again, the one thing I absolutely, this is just it's not making excuses, or this is just, I've absolutely noticed this, because the way I sit, because the recording, my angles are always off, and they're always off in their same way of like throwing everything this way, because the place I'm putting my hands. Oh, that's an angry. Was he from Melbourne? Oh no, he was. Anyway, it's Major Bludd, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you back next week for more Draw on Joe. Draw with Joe. Draw on Joe is a different show entirely. It involves a tattoo artist and some magic markers. But I hope to see you next week again for Draw with Joe. Until next time, now you Joe, and Joe, half the battle.